Can you see? Can everyone see the RAWKS front screen, David? So
yeah, it looks good, mate. Looks good.
Okay, right. Okay, so we'll get, that's the one you want down there. Right. Okay.
So to progress this page up and page down, is that right?
Yep.
Okay.
This is just down arrow.
Okay,
yep.
right up.
Okay.
Good. Thanks very much indeed, President Ross, for giving me the opportunity to come and talk about my favourite interest in Rotary. What I was intending to talk about tonight was just give you a bit of an overview of RAWKS, and then briefly cover the programs of RAWKS and Cyclone Pam, which hit the Philippines, the Vanuatu, and one of my projects, and talk about which is and my project in on Tanner Island in Vanuatu. Just give you a bit of a brief overview of that project. Overview of RAWKS. Basically, RAWKS, or Rotary Australia World Community Service, is the international aid arm of Rotary. It is a wholly owned company, owned by Rotary, and is administered as a company. It is administered by a national body and an elected board, and there are 5 regions, and basically the regions are Eastern Region, which is the largest by number of projects and by number of clubs, and that comprises basically the 6 districts, or most of the, which comprise mostly New South Wales, the northern part of New South Wales. The district there, which overlaps with Queensland, is part of Northern Region. Northern Region comprises of basically the Northern Territory and Queensland. Central Region comprises the South Australia and the districts bordering to Eastern Region, and the Southern Region is basically Victoria and Tasmania. The Eastern Region meets has a meeting every quarter, and they rotate around the districts. We held the District 971 hosted the meeting before last, which was in Goulburn the last weekend in August. The last meeting was a couple of weekends ago in Warners Bay, hosted by the Newcastle district. And the next one, which is the next region, Eastern Region meeting, will be hosted by Liverpool West in Casula, which is just outside Liverpool.
You can use a mouse.
Okay, the programs of RAWKS, basically the 3 main programs. That's donations in kind, project volunteers, and funding projects on top of that. Rotarians Against Malaria partly comes under RAWKS, but some districts, as does 9710, have their own Rotarians Against Malaria, or RAM committee. And there's another area which has recently been added called Rotary Australia Benevolent Society, and I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. Donations in kind. Basically, we're looking for superseded equipment, mainly educational equipment or hospital equipment. There's a warehouse in Minchinbury, west of Sydney, which is Rotary has for a peppercorn rent from the Salvation Army, and we have the facilities there, and that's where containers are loaded to send overseas. Basically, any club can undertake a project to send equipment overseas, and that is managed by the DIK committee, mainly the warehouse manager for donations in kind. I'm regularly going up to Sydney taking equipment that I get, that I scrounge here about, and I take it up whenever I'm going to a management meeting of RAWKS, or at other times if I've got equipment. But essentially, it's up to each club to. We're encouraging all clubs to look out for equipment. Either if you can get it up to Minchinbury, do so. Contact the warehouse manager, Miriam Jacker. She's always looking for equipment, or contact me and I'll see what I can do to help you take it to the warehouse. There are two sides to the equation. One is getting the equipment in, and the other side is sending the equipment out. Clubs who have projects overseas are often looking for sending equipment as well. It's the responsibility of the club to, if they want to send equipment, to sponsor the container, and that can be done as a club project. And then either source the equipment the club sources their own equipment, or also uses equipment that's available in the warehouse, or a combination of the two, and also assist in packing it, particularly the Sydney clubs, so you can see that what you're sending overseas is what's required. And also it does require volunteers to load the containers, so that's a good club project. Containers typically cost somewhere $6,000 to send overseas, or a bit more depending where it's to, and the cost is not so much distance related as to whether it's on the main shipping routes, or needs offloading and transporting by a truck or another ship. Project volunteers. RAWKS started as what was known as FAME, Fourth Avenue Motion, International Service being the Fourth Avenue, and it started with volunteers going to Indonesia by a member of the district governor from the Inverell Club, basically 40 years ago. Started in 1965. He was over there in his role with Salvation Army over in Indonesia, and saw the devastation following the Japanese occupation there, and decided that this was something that Rotary could help with. So he took a team of volunteers over, as I say, in 1965, and the number of projects has increased progressively since then. Now projects are listed on the National RAWKS website. There are something like 485 projects listed as RAWKS projects in something like 60 countries, approximately 60 countries. So there are a lot of projects to choose from. Some projects are looking for volunteers, some are looking for funding, and many are looking for both. The object of a project is not so much doing the work, but training. Often that involves doing the work at the same time. So building teams, the idea is to send teams of builders and volunteers to undertake training, and where possible we get involved with the local vocational or TAFE colleges who send volunteers along. Nowadays the number of trades or occupations where teams go over, there are teacher development teams, medical teams, dental teams, optical teams, and a number of other teams that are going over to provide development in the countries. RABS, Rotary Australia Benevolent Society, was only registered really recently. This required negotiation with basically the tax department to get the fund approved, and now donations to both RABS and other RAWKS projects are tax deductible. RABS projects basically provide support for disasters or individuals who require relief, and they must meet one of those needs listed there on that list to qualify as a RABS project. But RABS projects are becoming fairly popular. I don't know whether you're aware of the project in Gunning, which was aired on a current affair about 3 months ago, and they raised 1.2 million for a lady who had a son with a Down syndrome. Her husband died of a heart attack, and she was 39 months pregnant and she was taking the son up, and another son was suffering from leukemia, and so she was taking the son up to Sydney for treatment. And the Current Affair heard about this, and they approached Rotary to see whether we could support it, and this was registered as a RAWKS project, and using the donation capabilities of the RAWKS site. Donations were called for, and they were actually, the number of donations coming in swamped the site, but they expanded the site, and over the next few days, as I say, 1.2 million came in to support that lady. To qualify as a RAWKS project, there must be a direct need to provide relief for an individual, not for a community. So it should target the disadvantaged, i.e. a place to sleep for the homeless, food to support those in poverty, or counselling to support those in distress. If you're interested in more information about that, I've got more information that I can send on to you if you're interested. The other area, which this district has a separate committee, Rotarians Against Malaria, RAM, which is the district chair for this is John McPherson from Berrima District Club. He's very active in supporting the cause of RAM. There's been a lot of work done in RAM, and they basically have concentrated. They started off in PNG, now also support Solomon Islands, Vanuatu, and Timor-Leste. In the early before Rotary became involved, the approach was basically spraying DDT to kill the mosquitoes. Then in the 1990s, a number of foam projects built microscopic homes to allow research to be done in the field. Then in 2002, a 3H grant program provided funds to buy bed nets, and the process, well, the program was Adopt a Village, AAV, Adopt a Village, where clubs gave money, and depending on the amount of money, determined the size of the village that club would support. And the idea was to go in and concentrate on one village at a time, at the same time provided education in the villages about getting rid of swampy areas and so on, and the need to cover up at night and sleep under the bed nets. The bed nets that are now used are insect impregnated with insecticides, so if a mosquito lands on the nets, it basically kills the nets. So they started in 2001 in PNG, and since then they've covered the other 4 countries, Solomons, Vanuatu, and Timor-Leste. That's basically the strategy. Clearing the education of people in the villages, clearing the swampy areas, and diagnosing any cases of malaria and treating, and providing bed nets to the villages. There's also an ongoing of research in vaccine to prepare vaccines, and there've been some fairly promising developments in that area. RAM has been a fairly successful program. There's been, in PNG, there's been a massive distribution of bed nets, particularly following the injection of funds from the Global Fund, with 9 million nets being distributed, which has seen a 45% reduction in cases of malaria, and in some provinces the reduction is even greater. Similar sorts of successes have been achieved in the Solomons and in Timor-Leste, with 5 districts within Timor-Leste virtually reaching the status of being malaria-free. So that's a bit of an overview of RAWKS generally. My interest is in Tanna, which is on the southern end of Vanuatu. I've got a project there. The cyclone hit on the 13th of March and created devastation, basically coming in from the northeast, heading for Port Vila on Efate, which is the island of the capital, and then following the string of islands to the southeast. The areas to the north of Port Vila were not hit from a cyclone point of view, from a damage point of view, but they've been very badly hit by the fact that there's been a 70% reduction in tourism, which has hit the economics of the Northern Islands as well. So they've suffered, although there was no reason for tourists not to go there. The southern islands, of course, have been badly hit. You can see the picture there of that's the main street in Lenical, which is on the island of Tanna, which is on the west coast of Tanna. There's a couple of pictures of the devastation on Tanna. District 9650, which is the district north of Newcastle, up to about Kempsey, and particularly Port Macquarie, they've been very active on Tanna over the last 10 or 15 years, and so they've been very busy there. And Ray White from the Port Macquarie Club basically had a couple of containers packed as soon as the cyclone was over, and was taking those over. He's been over a couple of times since then. I believe he's over there at the moment, helping with restoring some of the damage, rebuilding schools and so on there. That's Lenical Hospital, which is the only hospital on the island. The top picture is a picture I took when I was there about September last year. The bottom two pictures show some of the devastation of the hospital. The main building in the hospital, the roof was largely undamaged. A lot of the guttering came off, but a lot of the damage was basically through the wind blowing through the windows and just creating devastation in the wards. You can see on the picture on the right hand side the damage that was caused to the wards. So one of the things I've done is send a lot more beds over, and bedding and equipment generally for the hospital. There are a couple more pictures of the hospital in Lenical. Port Resolution School is a project I've been involved in. This was a project that was funded by Susan Alexander from, she was originally with the Canberra Sunrise Club, where she established a interact team at the Tilapia Park School. She's a teacher there, and over a period of 6 or 7 years, they raised 120,000 to build that building. They started off by sending books and equipment and so on for the school, and over time they working with the Port Resolution community, and particularly with the school and the headmaster, determined what they wanted, and they basically came up with a school, a library, and a kitchen. And that building basically is the school and the library, which also serves as a community centre for the village and a number of villages around Port Resolution. The pictures on the bottom are some pictures I took. I was over there in May, so that was a couple of months after the cyclone. The picture on the top left was a dormitory, and that was basically completely blown away. And there are a couple of schoolrooms which were completely blown away, and there are a couple of schoolrooms where the roof was blown off. The defence, both the French and Australian defence, did a lot of short-term assistance, provided short-term assistance, and they've replaced the roofs with tarpaulins, so they need permanent replacement. And UNICEF have provided tent classrooms to replace the classrooms that were blown away. I was over at the school before the cyclone, as I say, September last year. we took over a team of volunteers to provide low voltage computers and solar power. So we put a couple of solar panels on the roof, or 3 solar panels on the roof, a control unit, and 15 low voltage computers. And the team basically provides a couple of us to install the computers, and then a couple of TAFE students and a couple of TAFE teachers. So we spent 2 or 3 days installing the equipment, and then the rest of the time the students and the teachers providing training on use of the computers, not only for the teachers but also for members of the village who are interested in learning about computers. And I've been back a couple of times since, just to check the computers are going okay, and we've reinstalled some of the software and a few of them, and just to make sure the solar power's working okay. Fortunately, that building was not damaged by the cyclone. In fact, it was used as a refuge during the cyclone, and not only the Port Resolution village, but villagers from a number of villages around there used that as a safe refuge during the cyclone. So that and the church building were a couple of the buildings which were suffered minimal damage. The only damage to that building was that some of the guttering came down. While I was there, this was in May, so it was a couple of months after the cyclone, World Vision were distributing food. They used the hall for distribution of the food, and depending on family size, they were all given some rice and some tinned fish, which provided some supplementary support for their diet. Because all the crops were damaged. A lot of them are root crops, so immediately after the cyclone, the leaves were blown off, but the roots were still salvageable, so they were able to eat for a few weeks after the cyclone. But if they were left in the ground, they basically rotted in the ground, and all the fruit was basically damaged. And they replanted their gardens, but it takes 6 months or so before they're growing again. I was mentioning to Ross today, before at the start of the meeting, one of the problems that's happened since the cyclone is that the El Nino is causing a drought there, so that things are not looking good for the next 6 months. So when I was back there in October this year, there was a further food distribution, but this time it was only to the school, so that the school could provide lunch for the school children. So at least they were receiving some food. So the cyclone is still having its effect on the communities there. RAWKS, just a bit of an overview of RAWKS itself. I've got a district committee, so about 5 or 6 members of the committee, all willing to speak to clubs and also provide advice on coordinating projects or getting projects started. Or if you're interested in taking teams, have a look at the national website. There's a list of, as I say, about 400, nearly 500 projects in something like 60 different countries. On the national website, there's also information manuals about for team volunteers and team leaders to run a project. But all the members of the committee are more than happy to discuss that. Some projects, if clubs are interested in making a donation, look at the projects and talk to the on the website where the projects are listed. There are contact details for each of the project managers, and they can provide you information about the project and whether they're looking for volunteers or donations or both. There's also an Eastern Region website which basically lists reports that have been prepared for projects being undertaken by clubs in the Eastern Region. There's also the RAWKS Rover newsletter, which all clubs should be receiving. If you haven't, let me know, and I'll make sure it's sent out to you. There's also information about, it's also available on the Eastern Region website. There's also information about what equipment donation in kind is looking for, Actually, the warehouse in Minchinbury is being closed down in 2017. The lease is up with the Salvation Army, and they basically said they want the facilities for themselves. So donations are kind of looking for alternative accommodation, and I'm not aware of anything being found yet. So they've got basically all next year to find somewhere. And early in 2017, they need to leave the Minchinbury site. So that's basically an overview of RAWKS. I'm more than happy to take any questions in any areas that anyone might have.
I'll have the first question if you don't mind, Brian. David Fox. I must say, I have to point out to you, Brian, that you've probably forgotten, but you actually helped us when we set up the Western Desert project by giving us a shipment load of wheelchairs for the various centres. So that was gratefully received, let me tell you.
Yes, I forgot to mention that there are 2 or 3 projects, 3 or 4 projects, which are in fact Australian-based rather than being overseas. They unfortunately don't qualify for the tax deduction for donations made to them, but they're certainly very valuable projects. And the Kindle project has been has achieved a lot, as those who went to the district conference and heard Sarah Brown talking about the work that's been done in Purple House. And I understand that Fred Falk at the moment has sourced a hydraulic bed, and he's looking at a means to send it over to, I'm not sure whether it's Kintel or one of the other centres they've got in the Western Desert.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. But anyway, I have to say that we wouldn't have done it unless it had been for RAWKS, because no one would join unless it was a RAWKS project. So, and on top of that, all the equipment you gave was obviously first class. So I'll call that out right up front.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind knowing a lot more about the RABS. Can we put something up on our website on it?
Yes. What I'll do is I'll provide you a link to the RABS information on the National RAWKS website. That's probably the best way of doing it.
If you provide that to David, he'll
we'll do.
link it into the site.
Yep.
Is your webmaster?
Yep, we'll do. I'll make a note of that.
Brian, it's Bruce Harvey here, Brian.
Yes, Bruce.
Can you hear? Oh, hi, how are you?
Well, thank you.
Good, that's good. That's very good news to hear that the Port Resolution project survived the cyclone so well. I was involved with Susan very early in the piece in the architectural design of that, so I'm happy to hear that it survived. And I think
many lives, I believe, too, with being the refuge that people were able to shelter in. So it's
that's fantastic, because as I understand it, the winds recorded were upwards of 300 kilometres an hour, and it's very difficult to design to that sort of extent. But anyway, that's
the devastation to most of the locally built huts, houses was pretty drastic.
Yeah.
They're designed so that they can be rebuilt fairly quickly. So when I was back in May, a lot had been rebuilt. But,
historically, that's always been their approach.
Yes,
but it's a bit like the palm trees. You know, they sway right over and come back up again. And the very lightly built native things do the same. That's very good. I think also there was significant help in the funding side. The kids did just an amazing job at Tilapia Park High School, there's no doubt about that. But there were also a number of clubs who came to the fore with pretty significant donations at the time too. Although Susan, I admired her persistence, because she was up against quite a bit of resistance in the early days. So it was pretty remarkable what she achieved.
With herself and with the school was really amazing.
Yes, yeah, it was. It was.
Oh, and one of the follow-ups from the fact that when the Interact students finished at Talopi Park, most of them went to a lot of them went to Narrabundah College, and it was only a few weeks before they'd established an Interact club at Narrabundah College under the auspices of Canberra South Club. So,
Right.
So the commitment from the interactors is still there.
Yeah, that's fantastic, isn't it? It's the benefits of Interact. Get them involved early.
Yep, indeed.
Before they get old and cynical.
Indeed.
So I was going to raise a question.
Bruce.
One of the things that happened with the VTT, I'm just not sure if Beth's online. I can see her eyes. You there, Beth?
Yes,
Okay, it's coming through Rob again, so there might be a problem with your microphone. But I was just going to say that when the VTT came through, we had 10 nurses from Pacific Islands, and one of the things was that some of them were very organised and had a shopping list, which they said they would appreciate support for. And it was agreed that all requests for gear would go through the New Zealand team leader. And then if she needed assistance from Australia, it would come to Beth, and Beth would inform the club. So some of those things we may be able to feed through RAWKS as well if they want donations in kind and stuff like that. Is that right, Beth?
almost.
Okay.
Any help from Australia was to come through me.
Right.
Claire and I, or New Zealand and I, would talk so that we ensure that what is sent with New Zealand's knowledge, so that they can organise expedient delivery.
Okay. So who knows? We may be using your services. And the other one was, it's a pity Jeff's not online, but Jeff's our barrel rep, Mittagong, and he brought up the issue last meeting with a lady in the local area who's had to have her arms and legs amputated, and I don't know if they've engaged with RABS to help her yet. You know?
I'm not aware of it, no. But I'm more than happy to help establish a RABS project.
Okay, because I know that the Berrima Club did the jailbreak and
Yes,
gave a significant donation to her, and they're obviously keen to keep supporting her for a period of time, her and her family. I think she had 2 young kids as well, so got to get a car and other things. So maybe doing that through RABS might make it more, give it a profile and help raise some funds for it.
And with the tax deductibility, people are more likely to, more happy to make donations, knowing that they get the benefit of the tax deduction.
Any other questions or comments? The one thing I encourage is if people stick their hand up or wave them or whatever, we can see that they're interested, so we don't get, okay, we've got 2 here. We'll start off with Beth, because she's already off the mic, and we'll hear her through Rob.
Through the vocational training, I've had a number of offers from clubs and also from a non-Rotarian through the Canberra Hospital to provide or to let us come into her garage, if you like. She doesn't like seeing anything thrown out of the hospital that can be used, and she said she has a garage full. So we need to get together sometime and work out how we can go and talk to that lady and see what she has got and how we can.
So you're saying you may need some money for a container? No, Rob's just gone on silent, which means we can't hear you, Beth. That's better.
Office of finance from other clubs. So we just need to work out how the best way to do this is. Can you hear me?
Okay, we're hearing you only through Rob, but that last statement was a bit quiet. I didn't hear it, did you?
No, I didn't. No.
I'll talk to Brian offline.
Okay,
Okay,
great.
yep, good.
Norm, you had a comment?
Yeah, I just wondered, Brian, how long have you been doing RAWKS?
Well, I guess my first RAWKS project I went on was in 1996, where I was building an aid post, which is basically a scaled-down hospital, about 50 kilometres from Rabaul in West New Britain in Papua New Guinea. Sorry, East New Britain in Papua New Guinea. It was in the middle of a cocoa and coconut plantation area, and there was government had a research centre there, and one of the research workers, who was a member of the Rabaul Club, basically established a project to build an aid post, basically for their staff and also for the sawmill workers, because there are a number of sawmills in the area, and they saw the need for an aid post, and so they put that as a project. So they arranged the materials and the accommodation for the volunteers, and they got the design for the aid post approved. And that's over from the builders. I was the only non-builder in the team, and that was basically in 1996. So in the early years, I didn't go on that many projects, but I've been on a few in the last 2 or 3 years since I've retired. I've been to Thailand to the Children of the Golden Triangle in 2005, where we were teaching fabrication skills to the residents of the Triangle, Children of the Golden Triangle Centre there, which basically giving them skills so that after they left school, they would have skills to offer rather than sucked into the drug trade. Well, that was the idea anyway. And so we spent a week designing bunk beds for them in the dormitories, because they were all sleeping on mattresses on the floor. And then the second week we spent teaching them basically fabrication, cutting, welding and finishing. So they ended up with a few beds. While we were there, we only built half a dozen, but we left materials for them to continue working. So we're about, over the next few weeks, we built about 30. And so it was satisfying to know that we'd done enough training for them to carry on working on their own.
Well, all I can say is congratulations, because as long as I've been in Rotary, you've been wandering around talking RAWKS and encouraging us all to get involved. So well done.
I do it because I enjoy it. Yeah, have a lot of fun.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah.
My other question was, what did you do before you retired that gave you the skills?
I was in sales.
Okay.
I trained as a electronics engineer. Started with a PMG, and then over the years went through the various. Started in the engineering area, and then moved across to installation engineering, and then moved across to the sales area and provided technical support for the sales team. So the hands-on skills just sort of just came from do-it-yourself skills, I guess.
Okay, and one other, we were talking at a couple of meetings ago about using online capability for fundraising, and one of the things that I mentioned was that at HP, we actually give them money every quarter because we volunteer in Rotary and all the other things, and they give us $50 a quarter to donate to someone through Global Giving. And I was just wondering if any of the RAWKS projects go up on those type of fundraising websites, and maybe we as an e-club could help support some of the projects by making them available for the public or my HP buddies to donate their money to a worthy Rotary cause somewhere in the region.
I'm not aware of any of the projects or project managers doing that, but it's certainly something that we need to look at. We can talk about that offline.
Yeah, so maybe we as an online club should look at taking RAWKS online and see if we can help them to promote and raise additional funds, because we do so many things, and I think we're well known inside the organisation, but to get the information out there is a lot harder because the media is just not supremely interested. Because we do too much. We'd fill every newspaper if we put up all the details.
I mean, what I mentioned earlier, when we had that RABS project in Gunning, where Sharon Chan was the lady who was going through hard times, when that was picked up by 60 Minutes, it certainly was very successful for fundraising.
So maybe we need to pick a project a month and see if we get it on 60 Minutes and see how that raises the profile for Rotary. Did they actually mention Rotary a lot during that?
Yes, but Rotary was mentioned as far as the site for making the donations, and they had two sessions, if you like. On the second session, they held a street party come meet the people, and the president of Canberra Rotary Club, Sarah Roberto, was interviewed, and she basically spoke briefly about. She only had a couple of minutes, but she certainly promoted Rotary, and that Rotary was keeping an eye on the lady and offering support on an ongoing basis, and so gave Rotary a good promotion at the second of the 60-minute interviews.
Okay, well, on behalf of the club, I'd like to say thank you very much for the talk. It was a much broader set of things than I've heard before about RAWKS, and I think I'll echo Norm's comment that every year that I've been in Rotary, you've been in charge, because I've only been in 3 years, so it'll be good to see how these projects go in the future and see how the club can support them, whether with people, dollars, or donations in kind. So if there's no other comments, we can close the recording and go on to general business. Thank you.